Hey, if you want to jump higher, use the tip we're about to talk to you. It can literally increase your vertical instantly. I use this jump higher. I took my vertical from 24 to 50.5 inches. I used to have bad jump technique. And this is my coach. He trains me to jump higher along with a bunch of other elite athletes. And this is Austin. He also jumps really high off 1 and 2, and he can coach you to jump higher. Which, by the way, if you want to get coached by the three of us to jump higher, go to THPstrength.com.
You know what we should do?
What?
We should give them a discount.
No way.
Oh, yeah. How does 10% off your first month sound? Are you weary? Have you been watching us for a while? Are you uncomfortable with your love handles? Are you ready to make a change? Are you ready to get on that reality show and fall in love because of your rippled abs and huge VMOs? Now's the time to sign up at THPstrength.com using the code THP at checkout for 10% off.
I am so hot right now.
It's really hot.
I am like boiling. We're just sitting here
I'm really
sweating. Yeah, sitting here because of the humidity. All right, anyways, we will get into it. What is up, guys? As Isaiah said, I'm John Evans. I coach the highest jumper in the world, and we are going to be talking about driving the knee. This is a cue that Isaiah has kind of discovered or realized via coaching. A lot of the time, we look at that kind of picturesque image when you're in mid-flight of the penultimate step. Isaiah, let's go ahead and demonstrate what that looks like.
Let's explain
What it is.
the nomenclature real quick.
Nomenclature. I like that. I like
What's
that.
a nomenclature?
It's these
That's just
nuts, motherfucker.
Oh, you got him good. No, nomenclature just means naming system. Let's move the bench. Austin, tell us if we're in the frame. Get up, you mule.
Don't call him that.
Especially on
He's my friend.
All right.
I think we actually could have kept the bench, but
No. I like it better without it. Welcome to a live action podcast.
Wow.
So Isaiah and I, over the many years, we've had very specific naming systems for everything we've done. Shout out Tyler Ray on this. He's actually a big contributor in Chase. But basically, you got your penultimate step. So if you're a right-left dunker, right, your penultimate step plants down. You drive this leg forward, kick out. This is your plant foot, and then you have your block foot, and you go into takeoff. So during the plant foot, right, a lot of people will do this straight leg kind of kicking.
You mean
action.
penultimate?
I'd say it's like driving off the penultimate, driving the plant foot forward. So you're pushing off the penultimate step. If you're right-left, so this is my right leg, it's about to come down in a 2-foot jump. And what people will do, or what Isaiah noticed a lot of people do, is they'll straight leg it like this and kind of.
And it specifically happens when I tell them to lengthen their penultimate step. Is to go even farther. Is they just straight
Reach.
leg. They
Yeah.
reach really hard.
And I think intuitively, Isaiah and I have always thought of the distance of it coming from like a jump and not a reach, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like sprinting. We don't think, to run faster, I'm going to reach and try to take big steps, right? And same thing's true with the penultimate step, or it's just happened naturally from being an athlete. We just know that that's not how you move. And so we don't do that. But we noticed via coaching that a lot of people, to get a longer penultimate step, would just swing this leg out, kind of, I don't even know what you call it. Ugh. Ugly.
Yeah.
And I used to do that, actually. So over time, watching a lot of jumps, we noticed that it was a problem, and it looked disjointed and discoordinated. And so we were like, we should probably address this. So maybe this fall, I would say, is maybe when we noticed it.
It was when I always switched to right left.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it was fall time, right?
Yeah.
So we were doing a lot of right left with him because of his TFL.
It was like summer actually.
Oh, look, our mascot. I don't know if you guys can see the mascot. He's a big-ass lizard. So we noticed that was happening, and so we were like, okay, we have to – or we couldn't jump left-right, so we were like, we got to get some volume in. Let's go to right-left for him. And we started adding in those jumps, and as a result, we had to kind of re-engineer his technique. We had to redesign the freak beast that he is, which now, what do you think your right-left vertical is, by the way?
I think it's close to 50.
That's so funny.
I think it's at least 48, 49.
That's crazy. So yeah, that said, the big thing that we realized is during the penultimate step, Isaiah, you can demo this. What happens is you drive the knee forward as you basically take your penultimate step. So are you doing a right-left or left-right? You're doing left-right. So watch his left knee. Oh, okay, so take your penultimate step. All right, so stand just on your right foot here so they can see. All right, so this is the plant foot. It's about to drive forward, and what he does is he drives the knee forward instead of leading with his foot. So it's lead with the knee instead of leading with the foot. It's almost like an A skip or a B skip, and I think a B skip's probably a good analogy for it. So a B skip is that you come up like this and then kick out as you skip, and that's more or less what it feels like. I mean, that's probably a little bit more tension on the hamstring, but what a lot of people do is they'll like do a straight leg bound almost, right? So they'll just, kind of straight leg into it, and like you want to be watching his left leg as he does this every time.
Yeah, right here.
So as we
This is
try
bad.
to, that's bad.
Good.
Yep. And what happens as a result of that is you get a reaction force. So basically as you drive the knee on that step, like if I'm a right-left guy, so I'm sitting on my left leg, getting ready to push off like this, right? That's almost what it feels like. It doesn't feel like this, like a straight leg bound or pushing off a straight leg bound. Remember, you want to be low. So you're kind of in this acceleration mechanic, and it's like a drive off of that, similar to like literally sprinting.
I also want to make a point here, which we can lead into the next part of the discussion, actually, is when I see elite jumpers warm up, they don't do it very well on short approaches and low effort jumps. I start seeing it happen very aggressively on full approach jumps where you're trying to take as big of a penultimate as possible. That's where it's very exaggerated. And the one thing that I always look for if someone's like doing it correctly is at toe off of the penultimate. So right here, pay attention to this leg, right?
Toe off means right before his toe leaves the ground.
My knee should be in line with my heel. Anytime I see the heel come too far forward while this leg is still on the ground, that's when I know you're kicking. You're
So you want like
straight
a perpendicular.
leg.
Your shin should be perpendicular.
Yeah, it's
to
like
the ground.
perpendicular to the ground, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like this. Second thing, I don't actually even necessarily think throw my knee forward. That's never a cue I've told myself. But a cue that I have told myself is push my hips forward and my chest forward too. It's like chest and leg forward. But specifically when guys are immobile, when I've told this cue to people, it ends up looking like this.
They lean back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. There's one guy on our training who sent his videos, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen that. And so I think what happens, like in a scenario of myself, if I try to throw my hip and chest forward, it makes me turn into a high jumper, right? So, in the example he said, it's like drive your knee, but drive your hip forward, drive your chest forward. It turns into this for me, right? So even if I try to drive the knee forward, I end up leaning backwards, driving the hip forward, almost like a 1 foot jump. So I will say this is probably where Isaiah and I, and this kind of gets into the second discussion here, is in the warm-ups, right? So I did not always have good jump technique. I had to work on it a lot, like a lot. And I think we should, yeah, we're good? They can see? Cool. So I had to really try to develop my technique off 2 feet, and I was not naturally a 2 foot jumper. I would say now, especially when I'm trying hard, my 2 foot technique's pretty good, even with my very limited internal rotation. So internal rotation is like your foot doing this. You can tell I can't even demo it. Isaiah, you can show them what it looks like. So knee up.
You want internal rotation?
Yeah, internal, yep. So that's internal rotation. When Isaiah plants his feet, and you're talking about like footwork, what you'll notice is his block foot comes like kind of in this position. Jordan Kilgannon is also really prevalent with it. A lot of the highest jumpers in the world do that. The problem is that I have internal rotation if I'm sitting with my legs neutral, but as I pick my knee up, right, I lose, and this is me trying to turn my leg inward, but as I pick it up further and further and further, I go into external rotation. So that's problematic because when you're in a jump and I'm in this position, on my plant foot, and my block foot's coming into position, I have to upright to get that block foot turned inward, to get a good block off the ground. The benefit of that is it takes you vertically. So all those things being said, I have a big limiter there, and I have been able to work around it by doing different drills, kind of changing the angle of approach, trying to dunk from different lobs and stuff like that. And a lot of people will comment on my YouTube and they'll be like, your squat sucks, go to goblet squatting. And I'm like, that's a horrible idea. Like, as your coach, I'm telling you, you don't know what you're talking about. So I've had to finesse some things, but there are some big picture concepts I've been able to maintain, one of which is staying low and fast and then driving that knee forward. Because I think even yesterday when I did left-right, which you guys will see, I dunked left-right for maybe, I think that's the first time ever, on 9/11. Did I dunk with my right hand or left hand? It was my right hand. So left-right, plant I don't do. Just got my output up over the last probably last 3-4 weeks, have not done any left-right jumps, literally zero. Was struggling right-left because I was like out of control. I couldn't keep my hand on the ball. I was jumping high, but just missing. Built up, and then my second try on 9/11 outdoor, I made a dunk on 9/11. So, it's like, what big concept do I always try to make sure, or two or three things is, one, staying low, and making sure that I push off the penultimate step, but I also drive the knee. And so that's kind of where, getting into that, when I warm up, I like to go further. I start maybe one stride from the rim, and then I'll back up slowly. And I got this actually from Dom Gonzalez. So I'll kind of be in this position, like acceleration, and then I'll have the ball in my hand usually, and I'll just drive the knee forward, kick out, and then plant. The problem is that when you do that, you mess up the timing. So Isaiah, you can elaborate. What do you usually see when I do that?
Yeah, when I see the penultimate step be too long
Without like momentum or
not,
intent?
I'm going to rephrase it and I'll say too long. When I see people try to have a longer penultimate step without momentum going into the approach, I see technique, not necessarily technique go out the window, but the rhythm and timing
I do agree
becomes
with
a becomes a lot worse, and it doesn't feel how a jump actually feels like when you're going off a full approach. So when I'm warming up, like let's say I'm only going to take 2 steps. The strategy I would choose to do that isn't along penultimate because everything would fall apart. Doesn't feel
you're
good.
saying
The
you
rhythm
don't
feels
drive
good.
the knee, you
Yeah,
just step.
yeah. If I'm taking
like a
just one
walking
step,
step.
yeah, I'm just taking a short step and just trying to make those last 2 steps quick, get down, and go back up.
Does it almost feel like off vert, but with a step?
Yeah, yeah. And then my penultimate step length increases as my approach speed increases. It's not necessarily that I'm trying to like have a longer and longer and longer penultimate step. It's that I am running faster and having more momentum going into it. So the penultimate lengthens as a result. And then I think what the leading with the knee thing does is it allows you to accelerate through. I think if you're running really fast and then straight leg, you're going to decelerate. Yeah.
It's like a braking force. I
Versus
actually very much agree with that.
Versus if you run fast and then your knee comes forward, you're going to maintain that speed. And I think a big reason why athletes aren't good at that is they're not strong enough and coordinated enough to handle all that force as they hit the ground.
You're saying on the plant foot, block foot, or on the penultimate step?
As they hit the plant leg after the penultimate.
I think it's like strictly coordination.
Yeah.
Like I think most people are strong enough to do it because you're like in a pretty decent position at touchdown. I mean, you might not jump immediately higher, and this goes back to the timing thing. Like what usually happens is guys will be really late with their block foot, like the timing of the contacts increases in length. So meaning like your plant foot hits, and then it's like takes forever for your block foot to get around, right? So if I'm coming in, it's like I'm here, and then it hits. The time delay between those two things, you're losing energy in the tendon on that plant foot. You're losing the momentum that you just built up in the whole run up. So even if you're like positionally perfect, your timing just goes out the window. And that's what he was also saying. Like in the warm up, even though they're walking into it, one thing that is consistent, whether they're driving the knee or not, is that they're knee to knee before touchdown of the plant foot. So knee to knee means your knees, when viewed from the side, are stacked, right? So if
and it's usually at this point right here,
like if
imagine
you're,
like
his plant foot, like he's midair, it's like this position. They're like, when I'm in flight like that, your knees are stacked when viewed from the side. Now, if they're out of position, what usually happens is they land, and this knee is lagging behind on the block foot, and so
which by the way,
your timing is really slow.
Which by the way, it's a chicken versus which came first, the chicken or the egg example. I've never seen someone straight leg on the penultimate and be knee to knee before.
You've never seen that happen?
I don't think I've ever seen it. Someone
what about
go
in
here
warm-ups with pros?
and then go like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think on a full.
Like you've never seen full approach.
Yeah,
guys.
a full approach.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
So
like you will see it in the warm up as pros warm up because they'll just kind of walk into it and go like that.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a pogo. I don't know how to explain it. You're not low. You're not
and it's
fast.
also not extreme, by the way, too. Like
No,
it's not like on a warm up. I'm not going like that. Like it's more like the penultimate short, and I'm just kind of like reaching forward and like almost like depth jump into it.
It's a step. It's a step jump versus a penultimate. To me, it's like a different motor quality, and this is, I think, where, when I do my warm-ups, I do it a very specific way. I'll go from basically like jumping into the penultimate step with a very short stride, more or less what he was saying, and I'll just focus on the really quick contacts. I'll focus on the foot positioning and kind of like where my body orientation is. So, if I'm one stride from the rim and I'm literally the first thing I'm doing, I'll do my off-vert jumps, and then I'll get into this, is I'll just stand on my penultimate step and I'll literally just jump and go up. And I'll try to work on the footwork being in the right position. So I want to see, if possible, at least parallel, maybe a little bit internal rotation. I don't lower much. I'm not trying to jump high. I'm just focusing on the timing of those steps. And then what I do is I'll back up over time. So I'll do that a couple times, just screw around. And then I'll back up and I'll focus on staying low. So now by being low, I have checked one box that's super important. And the second box I'm trying to check is getting fast, right, and the speed. So I'm trying to make sure I maintain that rhythm, of those contacts and try to get knee to knee. It's basically impossible off one stride, but that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to focus on two really important things, which is positioning, making sure I'm hitting the right shapes, right, and then also that I'm still driving the knee. So when I'm getting into that lead-in like this and I'm having the ball in my hand, I am literally thinking I'm driving my knee as hard as I can forward into that push off the penultimate step. And I'm pretty sore because I jumped yesterday, but I'll try to demo this. Can you hold my phone? Can you hold my keys? Dude, you're such a good steward. So I'll literally be in this position, and then I will push off this leg and drive the knee forward and then go up. So if viewed from the side, it would look like this. I'll kind of roll back and then and get into position and try to jump. And even though I'm not hitting that knee to knee, and I'll try to, as I add more intent, I do get the timing better, and then eventually I start adding steps because I need more momentum. So I'll walk into it or take one dribble, and then I just drive off of that step as hard as I possibly can. I think one big mistake with this too is it's like a bound. If you watch a triple jumper or you watch like anyone bound, that is what the penultimate step is. It is bounding into a takeoff, right?
Yeah.
With a slight nuance, right? Because the difference between bounding is you're trying to go up, but the concepts are very similar in this. Like, you're trying to push off of that stride the same way that you would a bound. You're trying to cover a lot of distance the same way you do a bound. The difference is a bound, like I said, you go up and forward. In a penultimate step, you're actually going down, which is really where a lot of people struggle. So, that's why being in that bent position, and I call it a penultimate step jump at this point, because you're jumping and driving that knee forward while staying down.
It's such a weird.
It's almost like an acceleration step off the blocks.
It's such a weird thing though, because so I always try to describe it as a fall. I'm falling into it.
Yeah.
Because every time I've cued jump, when I tell someone jump into it, they always go.
Bro,
the parabola is always like that.
It feels exactly like the first two strides in acceleration. It feels like when I'm like this and I'm in the block, or just it's a 2-point start or whatever, left leg forward here, you're in this position, and it's just it feels like that. I'm still down, I drove my knee forward, I pushed off hard. If you have
I've
shit
never thought
acceleration
about
mechanics.
If I'm running.
I'm talking the first two steps. It feels almost exactly like that.
It's so weird to describe.
It is a unique
It's really
motor
difficult
pattern.
to describe, yeah.
I would say the push off the ground feels like the first push off in a 2-point stance. You're leaning forward, you're getting ready to start your rep, and you just boom.
The thing is, it's
Push
not.
off it.
To me, it doesn't feel like that, because when I'm doing that
full
on a
approach?
sprint, I'm pushing as hard as I can with that leg. And that back leg is straight, on a sprint. When I get off that first.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's like the
on
second
a
or third
penultimate,
stride.
even though we always say push that leg behind you,
Yeah.
my
It's more
leg
of a
doesn't.
roll.
It goes like there.
Yeah, it
which
feels more like a
I'm
roll.
not pushing. I'm not. It's like a 50% effort push, and the other
It's a
50% is coming from the
continuation.
speed.
Maybe another way to think about it is if you've ever had a bike wheel. Do you have a bike in here?
No.
It feels like that would work, that thing, but I don't want you to have to grab that. It
Yeah.
feels like if you can imagine having your hand on a bike and you're spinning something, it's you have your tire. That first push is you get it moving.
Austin, can they see this?
Oh, yeah. This would work. Can you see the barbell? Oh, this is perfect. Brilliant. This is a perfect analogy for what acceleration mechanics look like. So when you are pushing, right, in this position, you're starting at 0. You're not moving. You have 0 velocity. That first push is a long, big push, and you generate a lot of momentum. And then the more momentum you have, I can't grab it and push again and get it to go faster, right? I have to go a little
Yeah.
faster, go a little faster, go a little faster.
That
go a little faster.
is how it feels, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not-
So it's push, tap, or like kind of. It's push, put, tap, 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 tap.
Like
tap.
imagine this is so.
Man, that has a
I'm
lot
gonna
of momentum. That's gonna be hard to
slow it
stop.
down. So imagine this is the speed I generated from my
Step
approach, right?
Or
So
step
this
two.
is step 1, step 2, and then penultimate is
You're like a slightly
like
bigger
that.
push,
But I'm
with
not.
momentum.
I'm not going 1, 2, as
Yeah.
hard as I can. And like
What's
it
funny
doesn't
is,
feel like that.
When I go really fast and I'm walking into it, it does kind of feel like that. Like
Yeah.
my first, if I would, like when I'm trying to not try, kind of, like
Yeah.
not get a lot of speed, for me it's like baby tap, baby tap, baby tap. I'm thinking penultimate steps coming up. Like it's not, I can't get back here, but it's super aggressive, like under my hip, and it's like boom. Like I
Yeah.
try to push as hard as I can.
So to do this example.
This is good.
when
I
I've-
like this. This is a good
when
teaching
I've-
cue.
Yeah. So when I've had good
Let
jumps.
me make sure this is super visible because Austin's not the tech guy. Oh yeah.
So when I've had good jumps, right? So when I tested 50.5 last time, I told John, I was like, I just ran faster and pushed harder on the penultimate. What that felt like, this was a good jump, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3. Like
Yeah,
that.
it was just constant acceleration.
But when I went faster, it's step 1, step 2, step 3. So it's like the whole approach itself.
How did you stop that? That was very impressive.
It's the whole approach itself got faster, which, by the way, 99 times out of 100, when I tell a newbie to run faster, they end up just decelerating. They're
yeah,
not
they'll
coordinated
literally
enough.
do this. They'll be like, and they just can't keep accelerating.
No. This is what a newbie does.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
Newbie-
slow it down. I don't want to do that. It's gonna rip my skin
Newbie
off.
goes, run fast, penultimate push. That's exactly what a newbie does. So, and then if we're talking, like, you want to time everything up properly, it's almost like
My skin is getting ripped
right?
off from that, by the way.
It's literally like step 1, step 2, penultimate, and then timing up the block foot is like a extra like.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that's how it feels.
That is
so,
such a good analogy. I'm trying to think, because like, for me with the block foot and plant foot, this is deceleration works the same way in reverse. The faster it goes, the more you have to tap it and go with it. So for me, it's push, woo, hit, and then da-da. Yeah, but it's a deceleration, I feel like, on the block. I don't keep accelerating. It's like I push stop.
It's
That's
like
almost
it's
what it
literally
feels
like you like apply force at the right way where it stops completely and then.
No, that's what I'm
go
saying.
up.
It's like push, stop. That's exactly what it feels like. Like the plant hits, push, and then stop, and you just torpedo yourself upwards.
But that's a perfect analogy of like
That's also what bad sprinters do. By the way.
my
When they
like
suck, they don't. They keep trying. Like people that push, they'll push, and they'll try to push, but they can't.
you know-
what they need to do is tap.
you know what it is?
Tap.
I think this describes exactly how I do it. Is my approach accelerates me. My penultimate allows me to maintain that velocity. It's almost like I already accelerated 99%. I only accelerate a tiny bit more, but it's more like I just maintain that speed through the penultimate.
I
I'm not
think what a lot of
accelerating
people
through it.
do- I think what a lot of people do is like in the less momentum you have in the lead up, the more momentum you need off the penultimate step.
Yep.
So like the faster you're going earlier, so like if you're going like this, push, like you can only tap to get it going faster,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Whereas like if I
Yeah, like if I'm
slow
going
this
short
down.
approach.
Like if I'm walking into it, if you watch T. Curry and myself, sometimes we do this, or Isaiah as well. It's like push, boom, and they'll launch themselves into it as much as they can. This has a slower total velocity, right?
Yeah.
But the rhythm was correct, right? And then
Yeah.
it's push break, right? Or to really.
Yeah.
Bah, bah.
It's almost like the more. So I think to get the most out of your approach, you have to
It's-
run fast.
Yeah, it's like
You have to run fast. But the faster you run,
The harder it
the
is.
less you can push. The less you can push.
You
on
can
the
even
penultimate.
tell, like, as they get more momentum on this wheel, and this is true of physics, like, it's harder for me to stop it. You need to be
Yeah.
stronger. You got to apply more force to be able to stop the wheel.
Yeah. But
So,
my best jumps ever, I'm running fast as hell.
And this is the other thing, positionally, what happens when you have more momentum and you're like, boom, what happens is it's harder to maintain position when you get on the penultimate step. Like, you'll see